Japan, for example, I'm not saying it's the only reason why they're the healthiest nation in the world, but they have the best longevity and health, and they eat about 100 times that amount every day on average.
What do you recommend for osteoporosis?
Well, we really want to understand first what the individual levels are, what diet and lifestyle is like through questions. That's the first thing. Often there's too much calcium with osteopenia, which my mom had as one of the parts of her demise. And looking back, just that wasn't super clear then. She had heel spurs, bone spurs, things like that. And you see that commonly with porosis and penia, and really with all bone disease. Some of the common factors that we see are a skewed ratio of calcium to magnesium, calcium and boron. So low levels of boron, too much calcium, not enough K2. There's some research out there that's new that shows you can take a lot of K2, and that may be really helpful, particularly if you have a genetic disposition in your body. I was talking to my friend Dr. Jeff Bland about this too, with heart health. Like she died of an aneurysm, which can be a hardening of the arteries through calcium, which makes sense because she had calcium deposition. The body was trying to dump calcium in the least vital places, like putting it in the heel, for example, putting it around the joint. So you end up more stiff, but hey, at least it's not in your heart or your brain. And then at some point it ends up in your heart and your brain because you're just taking in so much, your body can't balance it. So yeah, that's one way to think of it. Just a balance between those things.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the things that can balance calcium, in addition to magnesium and boron, potassium is a big one. Increasing your potassium intake, lowering your calcium intake, lowering your vitamin D intake possibly, which, or even stopping for a while, it may be very necessary. And because it's driving calcium absorption, and no one's talking about that.
I know.
All through COVID, we also just heard, take this one vitamin and you'll be fine, just, and the problem is it also keeps the channel open in the brain with enough vitamin D. You can actually cause cell death in the brain if you're not taking it, if you have low levels of magnesium, which counteract that channel staying open too long.
Right.
So just word to the wise on that. So,
you just helped me promote our level 3 class. So our functional blood chemistry class, we have actually just gone through an update, and we have completely changed how we work with vitamin D. So those of you who are coming into level 3, you will learn all about that. Those of you who have done level 3 in a couple of weeks, don't go yet because the materials are still being updated, but go and refresh yourself and check out our vitamin D for exactly the reasons that you're talking about. Is it, that seeing the excess levels of calcification, just seeing this downside, and also that the form that we're all testing isn't the most accurate form. It's the cheapest way to test, but it isn't actually what's you can have much higher levels of, and I'm not even gonna say if it's the 2-hydrox, I can't remember which one, but anyways, the other one that is more expensive to test, which we teach now in the class, that form is that's actually sometimes when you see that client where you're supplementing and it's not going up, it could be that their levels are actually quite elevated. They're just not appearing in the way that you're testing, and you could be driving that calcification process. So I'm actually I like that you brought that up.
I really applaud you for that. That's fantastic. I think, just pairing that blood work with hair testing and getting multiple views of it would be what I would say is awesome. It's just so cost effective. Like, why not? But both, whenever possible, both.
Charis has a question. With the limits on potassium supplementation, how can people get the amount they need?
So any product that is produced in an FDA inspected facility has to label their dosage at 99 milligrams or less. The body can and does need a lot more than that. So like I said, our RDA It's typically pretty conservative. In the case of iodine, our RDA is 150 micrograms. Japan, for example, I'm not saying it's the only reason why they're the healthiest nation in the world, but they have the best longevity and health, and they eat about 100 times that amount every day on average. 80 to 100 times. They're in the range of about like 12 milligrams or so. We do ship internationally, by the way, and we do, Deanne says, do we ship internationally? Yes. We do have wholesale accounts for practitioners, yes, and we can order tests internationally. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sometimes you'll notice gut issues if you're going over like a gram a day, but that's usually if someone already has pretty bad gut issues. Again, you need the potassium though. So you can dose it throughout the day, which is usually what we tell people in consultations. Do this like 3 times a day. Maybe it's 2 tablespoons, but yeah, why does it show 99 milligrams and 2 or 3% of your daily value? That's why, because the FDA is ridiculous.
Quick follow-up question, and then let's move into how people can get access, how they can open up those accounts, any specials for this crowd. She's asking about if somebody's on Coumadin, so they're having to really be careful about their K2 levels because of the blood thinning.
That's a great question. I would need to know, I think, a lot more info. I think anyone working with that person would need to know full picture of that.
And somebody is on a medication like that, that is where you're going to want to be testing. And we always want to, when we're working with supplements that can have any kind of interaction with a medication, you want to go really slowly, and you want to have their doctor be supervising the medical aspect of things and adjusting doses as needed. So that would be something that you would want to collaborate in that kind of a situation and not do solo.
Yeah, doctor or pharmacist, someone with some good pharmacology background. Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Courtney's asking, she doesn't see a list of the minerals in your trace minerals. Is that listed somewhere? And the description mentions magnesium. She's wondering if you'd still recommend taking your magnesium product separately plus the trace minerals together.
Oh yeah. So trace minerals mean trace amounts of all these minerals. It's hard to say. There's 72 that are naturally occurring. It kind of varies batch to batch to batch. We source everything throughout different parts of the US. So nothing comes from China, for example. We also third-party test every single batch of every product we produce for potency and purity, which few brands do. They may third-party test, but that doesn't mean every batch. They're virtually all the most important things that you need. Yeah. And so think really small amounts, and you're sort of broad spectrum filling the gaps. It absolutely is going to be just micrograms of each one of those things. And one will have 11 micrograms of, say, vanadium and 0.1 micrograms of lithium, and then a really, really small amount of iodine as well. And for example, that would be like someone asking, well, taking trace minerals, is that going to affect thyroid and Hashimoto's argument with, like we just talked about? It's like, it's just really small amounts. So if you're doing like RO water and putting our trace minerals in it, that's a great idea. I do that daily, all the time. So sort of a broad spectrum, because we used to get that from spring water.
Right.
And now we don't really. Right.